Welcome to Comfort Zone, a podcast all about pushing your hosts, outside of their comfort zone. I'm Christopher Lawley, and each week I am joined by two incredible co-hosts, and this week I promise we won't talk about the Nintendo Switch 2, so Niléane just rolls away in the middle of recording. As always, I'm joined by Matt Birchler. Matt, how are you doing?
Chris, I'm doing well, except unless your Spotify, who I learned today thanks to Niléane, is stripping away the chapters that I so painstakingly title lovingly.
And you come up with funny titles for the chapters. Like, that is all you.
Yeah. Not on Spotify.
Not on Spotify.
They're sucking away the humanity.
To be fair, I don't even know what our Spotify numbers are because of the way you have to submit podcasts to Spotify. I actually can't look at that. I'd have to ask John, so I don't even know. But anyways, we're also joined by Niléane. Niléane, how are you doing?
Hello, I am just as enraged as Matt about the Spotify thing. I just want to mention, so what Spotify does is they auto-generate chapters instead of using the ones we provide and the ones that Matt has made. And I want to mention that not only do they do that, but the chapters that their system comes up with are really bad. Like one for last week's episode, one chapter is named "The Switch to OLED," like the Switch to OLED, switching to OLED for some, like it's a chapter about us ditching all of our IPS screens and going to OLED. I don't know.
That's bad.
Yes.
Spotify, I hope you feel bad. You owe us an apology, Spotify. We want a written and verbal apology.
Yes.
But we have a couple of tiny topics. First thing I want to mention, I teased this in the last episode. It's now live on the Mac Stories YouTube channel. You can go there. We'll put a link in the show notes. YouTube, it's description. Podcast, it's show notes. Come on, people. But we'll put a link in the show notes. There is now a video on the Mac Stories YouTube channel of me getting John and Federico to drink Dr. Pepper, zero sugar, with cream soda. And it goes exactly the way you think it will go. It's pretty great. It's not long.
Beautiful content.
It's good content.
It's hashtag content. You know what? It was the best thing I filmed at WWDC because you know what? I didn't have time to film a single video while at WWDC. I didn't record my video until I got home. It was that busy of a week. So it was the best thing I filmed at WWDC.
Oh, Chris, I have a question about WWDC, actually.
Okay,
They have the Rainbow Arch thing, like in that kind of field area. Are you ever able to go there?
Okay, so it's a little weird. You can't just walk in there. You kind of have to have a reason to be there. I have been able to go into that. It's the Rainbow Arch is in the center of the ring for those that don't know. And the center of the ring is this park area. You would think when they announced the very first WWDC was going to be at Apple Park, everyone thought it was going to be at that Rainbow Arch. When you see it, it doesn't make any sense because there's trees and paths and benches. It's like a place where you could literally teams can meet. You can go have lunch out there. It's just kind of like a place you can kind of literally just kind of get outside and be in nature and stuff. It's really nice. So you can't just walk out there because you can't just walk around Apple Park. But this year, and I didn't know it was there because, again, I was busy with other stuff, they had one of the Apex GP Formula 1 cars in that area over by the Rainbow Arch. And some people actually got to see it and go take photos with it and see how they literally put an iPhone camera. So there's an iPhone camera in the Apex GP car. See, you asked a simple question, and I'm going on in this deep tangent. But they literally built an iPhone camera, and ProRAW and ProRes was literally designed for this Formula 1 movie, and they brought it to the iPhones later on. But so they had this whole Formula 1 thing out there, so you could go out there and be in that area this year. I have gotten to go out there exactly one time before, and it was for something that was not technically a part of WWDC, and the PR people I was with were let's just cut through here. So I did get to go out there one time. It's a really nice area, but no, you can't just hang out there. That was something a couple of people have suggested because one of the big complaints about WWDC, especially from the press side, is press and developers are pretty much separated from the get-go. Apple doesn't really have an area for press and developers to mix, unlike old WWDC conferences where it was just a conference center and everyone could just hang out. Right now, if you go to like the Apple Park Visitor Center, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that the cafe area and the outside seating area is blocked off for press, so they have a place to work. They call it like the media filing area and stuff like that. So you have to have a press pass to get into there, so developers can't get in there. It's kind of a bummer. So the suggestion I've heard from a lot of people is take that center area, open it up to everybody, and just like let people hang out and stuff in there. But I can see that being easier said than done.
Dang. Okay. I was hoping you could do like a video with you like walking out under the arch and being like, this is Chris Lawley from WWDC, and here's what's new in iPad OS.
I have only ever seen a couple of people get to film underneath that arch, and it's usually because it's like a special thing they're doing there at Apple Park and nobody else is around. Because I have a feeling Apple knows like once one person films under there at WWDC, every other YouTuber is going to want to film under there.
That's probably true.
Yeah. There's something else here in the tiny topic section. I don't know what this is. I don't know who put this in here.
I did. Last week, I teased that I would talk about a new window manager that I've been using and loving. This would have been my main topic for today, but it's just like it's very simple and it's great. So I don't have much to say about it. I really want to mention it though. It's called Bento Box. So it's a tiling window manager for the Mac. And the way that it works is so simple and so good. It's really well done. The way that it works is you trigger it from the menu bar, and you can draw lines on your screen, on your desktop, and you can only draw vertical lines and horizontal lines. And in this way, look at the website if you can. The link is in the notes because there's a GIF in there where it's pretty clear what it does. So you draw zones on your screens in this way. It's very, very simple, very straightforward. And then you can drag and drop windows into those zones as you hold a keyboard key, so Shift, as you hold the Shift key. And that's it. They tile into that zone, and you can create specific zones depending on your monitors. So you can have a different layout for your laptop and a different one for an external monitor, etc. And it knows which monitors are which, so it remembers by monitor. And in the way that it's used, so because other tools can let you do this, define zones and then drop windows into them, the way that it's smart is that so you can trigger it with the Shift key, but if you hold the Option key while moving a window at the same time, you can span windows across multiple zones. So for example, if you hold the Safari window, hold both keys, Shift and Option, and like you just drag it across the screen like that to span all the zones in a quick motion. You're just maximizing the window. It's really quick. And you can just do the same gesture over half of the display and just tiling it to the half of the screen. And you can also do it with a single hand, just with the mouse, without any keys. You just start dragging a window and then hold the right click. And then the zones appear, and you can just let go of the right click, and then the window just snaps into that zone. It's so fast. It's really nice. It's a basic tiling window manager principle, but like you can go a lot further because you can have so many zones on screens, and you can span windows across multiple zones. It's very flexible in this way, and it only costs $9. So I think it's a great value. So there you go. I've been using it for the past week, and as you know, I'm on a journey where I'm no longer using spaces on my Mac, just using one desktop, and that's been helping a lot.
Interesting. Why did you give up spaces again?
Because lately I've been feeling overwhelmed with because I always have a bunch of windows on screen. It's been more difficult lately because of job stuff. So I'm juggling more things at once now every day, and having those things spanned across multiple spaces, I would lose track all the time. So now I would rather have all the chaos on a single screen and manage it there than have it span across multiple desktops.
You're going the organized chaos route, is what you're going.
And
I like it.
Bento Box is helping out. Yeah.
Nice. I like this. I'm gonna download this after we finish recording and give it a shot.
Yeah, I think it's great.
This is very cool.
All right. Well, you guys ready to get in the main show?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, Niléane, you're first up in the document. What do you got for us this week?
Okay, so this is the official jingle for the new installment of our tech stories. If you remember, a few months ago, we already had our tech stories segment where I asked you and myself what was our first computer each. And when we told a bit about our life and our first computers. Today, I want us to go through every phone we've ever used, like as a main phone, not so Matt, any of your fencing folding things on the side, they don't count.
No folding phones for me.
What about my rotary phone from back in the day?
If you've been daily driving it, sure. And so yeah, just let's go through. Disclaimer: the Waveform podcast from MKBHD and his team, they did this, and I thought that was very, very cute and fun to hear what these people, the people there have used over the years, and I want to know about us. I want to know what phone we've been using over the years. Who wants to go first?
Who got the first phone?
I would say I probably got my first one in like 2002, 2003.
I got one in 2000.
Okay. All right. Well, Matt, you go first then. I think we both beat Niléane. I don't even think we need to wait for Niléane to answer.
2007 and 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
Elementary school.
So I had to look this up because I never knew what this phone was even called in the first place. But
oh yeah, I'm not going to know the first couple of mine. Yeah.
My first phone was a Motorola V120, which is a candy bar style phone with kind of a hourglass shape, kind of like an Xbox 360, sort of like
that's true.
Kind of like the phone's got curves, and it was totally fine. This was where I learned to actually, I don't know if I ever texted on this. Like, this was early enough that we weren't really texting. We were just using it for phone calls. So yeah, looking back on this, I honestly don't even know how I carried this around. Like, it was in my pocket, I guess, but like, it's a chonker.
But
I love
looks
this phone.
Small though.
It's man, I wonder if it's still in my parents' house. I wonder if it's still around. But yeah, it's there's no flat edges on this entire thing. It's like rounded on the back, so it's like kind of got a bulbous back. It came with this really cool rubber. Do you remember the iPhone 5C cases? Those rubber cases. This one didn't have the holes in it necessarily, but it was that kind of same sort of like bright orange rubber case that would go around it, which was in retrospect completely necessary because this was a brick that would never break. But this was my first phone, and I got it when I went to high school. Okay, the next phone I got, I'm going to put this in our chat as well. I'll stop doing that after this one because you just won't believe these. This one I got a couple years later because I think I did actually. Something happened to this phone. Or there was some sort of like situation.
Holy smokes.
I had the Motorola V70, which you're like, where's the keypad on this? Does it flip up? It doesn't flip up. The entire front rotates around in a circle around the screen. And this phone was pretty terrible. It was too small, but very, very thin, very, very tiny. Didn't do anything, but yeah. This phone...
The keypad looks very uncomfortable.
It's not great. I wouldn't advise this phone design ever coming back. Yeah, this one wasn't great. Definitely like the first one better. My next one, everyone's going to know, it's the Motorola Razr, the original. I should probably mention my dad worked for Motorola, which is why I was deep in Motorola.
Got some
So
insight.
Nokias were never an option.
Corruption.
Yeah, that's kicked out of the house behavior right there. Also, I couldn't afford any of these, so yeah. So Motorola Razr. I got a Motorola Razr 2 after that, which is still a flip phone, but this came out in like 2007, right after the iPhone, and I thought it would be basically as good as an iPhone. It was not. It did nothing. It was pretty rough, but it was very thin and very cool. Then we got into smartphones, and my first smartphone was the Samsung Galaxy S1. It was the Vibrant variant on T-Mobile. And the most interesting...
You went from the, like, you landed in the smartphone world from the top, like with a high-end thing.
I mean, I don't know if it was the high-end thing. Back then it was all, you didn't pay for your phone. You walked into a carrier and there was some sort of weird deal that would have you be paying over many years, and you didn't really pay much up front. So also I'm pretty sure I got like a student loan check and then went straight to the T-Mobile store on that one.
That sounds right.
Yeah. The cool thing about that phone was that it shipped with Avatar preloaded on it.
Whoa.
As its own app. There was an Avatar app, and it was just the movie.
That's one way to date the phone.
Yeah. So again, as James Cameron intended on your Samsung Galaxy S1, I went from that to the iPhone. My first iPhone was the iPhone 4, which I got when it moved to Verizon. I actually switched carriers for it. So I got the iPhone 4, skipped the 4S, 5, and then it's a very boring story because it's every iPhone after that. Ooh, actually it's not. There was one Android break in the middle. For a year or two, I used the HTC M8, I want to say. That was like their metal phone. It had like a LiDAR sensor. It was the first phone I know of that had a LiDAR sensor on it. This was a very cool phone. I liked this phone a lot.
It looks a lot like the HTC One. Is that it?
Oh, maybe it's the HTC One M8. Yeah, HTC One M8 is the variant I had, which was so cool. It had a full 1080p screen, 4-megapixel camera. But again, it had depth sensing, so it could do like fake 3D photos, or like it did not fake. It didn't do 3D photos. It did portrait mode. Like a year or two before, or a couple of years before, actually 3 years before Apple did it. But yeah, it was a 4-megapixel sensor, so they weren't great. And I do not have any of those photos anymore. I have no idea where they are. They're dead.
So one question: have you ever broken one of those phones? Okay.
I have broken precisely one phone, and it is so mild. It's hardly even counts. It is my current phone, the iPhone 16 Pro, which I dropped on the floor without a case.
You broke it?
And it has just some cracks in the screen.
So, dear listener, I don't think Matt ever admitted this on the show, but you may remember back when when the iPhone was announced, and I think Niléane wasn't there, and we had like John on or something, and Matt mentioned
that was
he was
in
like
2007. That was really small.
No, the 16 Pro, the 16 Pro. But him and I both got 16 Pros, and we talked about him on the show, and then a couple weeks later, he showed up with a 16 Pro Max, and I don't think he ever admitted on the show he broke it.
You
I'm
broke
glad
that?
He fessed up.
Yep, I did break it. So
so that's the one you broke that you just showed.
This is the one I broke, yes. And the screen does not turn on because it's not currently on.
Wait, how many iPhone 16 have you had?
We don't need to talk about it.
This is not sane. Okay.
One of them has turned into a development phone, so it's fine. But yeah, so that's the closest I've ever come to breaking a phone, but I've never broken a phone ever. This was the first time I even had like a notably scratched screen. So I've been lucky.
Okay.
Nice.
I mean, nothing shocking there.
Nothing shocking. I think the most shocking phone is that one with the spinny thing that everything rotates around the screen.
Yeah.
That was a fun fidget toy.
Okay, what about you, Chris?
So my story starts probably about 2002, 2003. I was in junior high. I needed a phone for I had something going on after school, so I needed to be able to call my parents and basically tell them, come pick me up. So they added me to their T-Mobile cell phone line and it was like $5 or $10 extra a month, and all I was allowed to pick from were the free phones, because that was the thing. Like, when back then there weren't iPhones, there weren't Android phones, there weren't really smartphones. Kind of, we'll get to that. But I was in junior high. I got to pick from the free phones. So I don't remember the model number. I was just trying to look it up and I can't find it. But basically, I had this flip phone, and it had this orange light on the outside that pulsed. And it used to do that while it would charge, and it would charge my bedside table. And I'm like, no wonder why I couldn't sleep well. Like, there's this light pulsing. Anyways, it was a dumb gimmick, but it was absolutely a gimmick. It was kind of nice because if you had like a missed call or something, it would like light up so you could see it from across the room that like you had a missed call or something like that. And this was even before text messaging. Like, this was the time where unlimited text messaging wasn't really a thing. We didn't have text messaging on a plan, so it was like 10 cents to send a single text message. So like that really wasn't much of a thing. So it was just a flip phone. And then I had another free flip phone after that. But after that, that's when I got the BlackBerry Pearl. And this was the candy bar BlackBerry, the skinny one. It technically still had a full keyboard, but it was small. It had the ball wheel, so you could scroll through things. You could technically add email and stuff like that, but this was when like text messaging was first starting to take off. Added that thing. I could fly through text messaging on that thing. It was, I take it back. It wasn't a full keyboard. It was the T9 keyboard, so like you had multiple letters on a key, I believe, and then you could like, it would try and learn what you were typing, so it would try and figure out based on what keys, and then like you could change it and stuff like that.
That's the legend anyway.
Yeah. And if we're admitting to which phones we broke, this was the first phone I ever broke. And and possibly the most embarrassing way you can break a phone. And I cannot believe I'm going to tell it. I've never told this story. I've never admitted to this ever. It was a week after I got the phone. It was a birthday present. Luckily, it was still under warranty. I went into the Starbucks because I had to go to the bathroom. I was using the urinal and talking on the phone at the same time.
Oh, no.
Don't ever do this. That is not cool. That is not cool.
It's worse than I imagined.
It slipped out of my hands, and it went exactly where you think it went.
This is not what I expected. Okay.
Yep. Luckily, it was still under warranty. I think I had to pay like $100 in order to get it fixed.
What do you think the auto-named chapter on Spotify will be for this?
Chris is an idiot. Don't ever do that, people. Don't ever be that person. But yeah, that was the first phone I ever broke. I've only ever broke 2 phones. That was the first one I broke. So after that phone, I think I got a BlackBerry Curve. So that was the full-size BlackBerry, or whatever I think it was the Curve after the Pearl. I think that's what it was called. I don't really remember the BlackBerry names, to be honest. But it was the one that had the full-size keyboard, and that was my last phone before going into the iPhone. Now, I didn't get on the iPhone train right away because we were on T-Mobile, and then we switched to Verizon. We were never, in America, the iPhone was on AT&T, or singular technically, but then AT&T from the first one to the fourth one. By the time the fourth one came out, I had my own job. I had a job. I was paying for everything. Like, I was kind of going out on my own, off my parents' stuff. So I was like, well, I'm making money now. Great. I'll go and get an iPhone. So I got the iPhone 4 like a couple weeks after launch, got on AT&T and all that stuff. So that was my very first iPhone. And then I didn't have the 4S. I did the 5. And then I actually kind of was annoyed with Apple because I really wanted a big screen iPhone, and they weren't giving it to us. So I skipped the 5S generation, just like Matt. It's actually insane. Oh, I've totally forgot, too. In between the free phones and the BlackBerry Pearl, I had a Motorola Razr, just like Matt. I had the original Motorola Razr.
You had to.
It's actually insane how similar our stories are, because the first iPhone was also the iPhone 4. Mm-hmm. I skipped the 5S in order to go to Android, which I got the Moto X. That was that one where that Motorola made that had like the creator thing, where like you could design your phone. You could put like a wood back on it, like a blue front. Like you could do all. I loved that phone.
I had that phone too, actually.
First OLED display, loved that phone. And it was compared to the iPhone, it was a big display. I loved it, but I hated Android. Like loved the hardware, hated Android.
You had it too, Matt?
I did. I forgot. It was my main for a little bit as well. I was, in an earlier version of myself, I was a blogger who specialized in trying Android phones all the time because it seemed like Apple bloggers had never used them and didn't know what they were like, so I was trying to differentiate myself. Anyway, I got a yellow one with like a pink accent. It was ugly, but it was bold, and I liked it.
I had like the walnut back. It was like a dark wood back with like the black front. It was great. And I'm so glad I went with the black front because of the OLED display. I think it had OLED. Maybe it wasn't OLED. I don't remember. Maybe it wasn't. But I just remember the display looked better than the iPhone's display at the time. So I skipped the 5S generation. I came back to the iPhone with the 6, and I did the thing where I bought the regular 6. And then I saw the 6 Plus, and I went, oh, I want that. So I sold the 6, and like I paid out of pocket for the 6 Plus, which was insane. Got the 6 Plus. Then the 6S came around, and I went back down because the 6 Plus actually hurt my hand. Like, it was so big, it hurt my hand. So I went down to the 6S, and this is the second phone I ever broke. And it was because Pokemon Go came out at the time. And I wasn't using a case or something. I don't think I was using a case at the time. And we're playing Pokemon Go, and I drop it on like this brick sidewalk. Like it was like this brick walkway. And I drop it and put this crack in the display. So I took it to the Apple store to have them fix it. And this was before I was anyone online. I think I might have been blogging, but nobody ever read my blog. Like nobody knew who I was then. Like nobody read my blog. So took it to the Apple store, and they just straight up fixed it for free. I have still to this day, I have no idea why they fixed it for free. It was supposed to be like 60 or something, $80, I don't know, to fix it, but they just replaced it for free. They're like, don't worry about it. There you go. Have a nice day. I was like, great, cool. And then from there on out, it kind of gets boring. iPhone 7, jet black, that's still one of my all-time favorite colors, that Darth Vader black. From that point on, no more cases. iPhone 6S was the last time I put a case on my phone. Ironically, that was the last iPhone I broke. And then 7, obviously I skipped to 8, went to the 10, 10S, and this is where it gets boring because it's just every new iPhone from there because that's when my business started buying iPhones for me. And it's at that point, it's just tax write-off. So like, but yeah, every new iPhone from there, pretty much always the bigger size, except the last couple of years, I've just been going with like the regular phone size because I don't do much with my phone anymore. But yeah, that's kind of me. It's weird how similar Matt's stories and I are.
Similar.
Yeah.
Matt, did you ever drop a phone in a urinal?
I've never done it, no, but you did.
You should. So our stories can
it would survive nowadays.
That's actually true, yeah.
You did add one wrinkle to mine, or two wrinkles to mine, I should clarify. I had the iPhone 6, and then I got the Apple Watch when I had the iPhone 6. And in the first year or two of the Apple Watch especially, it would devastate your battery life on the phone.
Oh,
because
yeah.
this wasn't a world where you had things constantly connected via Bluetooth. Like there weren't AirPods, there weren't anything like that. So it crushed my battery, and I got the 6S Plus the next year just to survive the battery hit. The second clarification is I am one of the few people who own an iPhone 8 Plus. Because
why, man?
Who's going to spend $1,000 on a phone? Not me.
I totally did. I was so happy to. I was psyched to get one of those. The iPhone 10 is the only old iPhone I still have. I don't keep old devices. I'm not nostalgic at all. The iPhone 10 and the original iPad are the only two old iPad or Apple devices that I still have.
So you got a little nostalgia, just a little.
Yeah. I don't know. I think at the time I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be worth something someday," and
okay.
It's used. It's not going to be, but whatever.
All right, it's my turn now.
Yes, Niléane, tell us what
I'm
phones
glad
you've had.
that I'm going last because I think my list is more interesting. So, One of my very first phone was my dad's. It was a small monochrome Nokia. Nobody cares. Okay. The next one was a very small Motorola, it had a color screen, and that was like mind blowing to me. Oh my god, a screen can have colors on in my hand, and it's not a TV. So that was crazy. And then, so that's my two only dumb phones. And then I was well into the era of smartphones when I still had this very small Motorola in middle school. And people around me started having smartphones. And I got my first one. My mom, on my birthday, she got me the LG L5, which was my first smartphone. It was an Android smartphone running Android 4. I remember being excited because it was Android 4. It was just announced, ice cream sandwich with the hollow UI, blue and dark. I thought that was really cool. That lasted a while. And then it starts to get weird because I got weird. And it was around this time when I got into high school that I started volunteering at Mozilla. And at the time, Mozilla was working on Firefox OS. And this is where I got really into the weeds and started being really active. And as such, I had so many Firefox OS phones sent my way. For information, I was an app reviewer on the Firefox Marketplace, which was the equivalent of the App Store, but for Firefox OS. And it was just web apps in there. And I was basically with a team of volunteers worldwide, just reviewing the apps there. And as such, we received phones, Firefox OS phones, to test the apps. But I only daily drove two of them. The first one was the Geeks Phone Peak. So the Geeks Phone was a developer preview phone. So like a phone really intended just developers buy this, and I got it as a reviewer, and that sucked so bad. It was very very shallow of a phone, like very I remember thinking it's so lightweight compared to the LG I had before. But it was running Firefox OS, and I was excited about Firefox OS. So I daily drove that. Which meant I didn't have I didn't have anything that worked that everybody else was using. So no Facebook Messenger, no, because the web app for that was horrible, especially on mobile. Even Telegram was horrible on mobile, etc. Anyway, then I got the Firefox Flame phone, which was another phone that was mainly aimed for developers for Firefox OS, but it was also sold a bit more widely. And it was a chunkier phone, better built, a bit more better performing, and yeah, that was nice. Then Firefox OS got axed, and I lost my appetite to contribute to Mozilla slowly after that. So it starts to get weirder. My list starts to get even weirder. I got a phone that I didn't remember the name until today. And it's called the Yola phone. You spell that Jolla, Yola. Okay. And that phone was made by, I believe, a Swedish company.
I'm seeing a Finnish company.
Finnish, yeah, they're all the same over there.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, no,
That
yeah.
is at Niléane, not at Matt Birchler, not at Christopher Lawley, at Niléane.
Yes, it was a Finnish company, and it was running a very exotic OS, which was called Sailfish OS. And
Yeah.
yeah, and that OS was like really cool, and I think it's still pretty cool, and I believe it's still around, mostly like open sourced in its open sourced form. Anyway, it was a Linux based OS with a very fancy UI with a bunch of transparency, Aereo glass inspired, like liquid glass, liquid glass just it has
Design
come
is
after
circular.
the battle. Yeah. Yola had done it before. And this OS, not only it was like very exotic, it was not Android, not iOS, not Firefox OS, not anything else, but it could run Android apps, which was like very, very nice. You could install the Google Play Store on it, and it could run Android apps, which was really cool. So it was okay if an app was not available on this weird OS. And yeah, I still love that phone. I have it around somewhere in in my in one drawer, and so I had that for a while, and then I believe I got rid of it, and I bought my first high-end phone, let's say, and that was the Nexus 6. And the Nexus
Ooh.
6, I remember fondly. I really loved that phone. I remember getting it in the mail, unboxing it, and it was
I was
huge.
gonna say that's the huge one, isn't it?
Yeah, I still remember like unboxing. I was like, wait, am I going to carry this around in my hand? I felt really, really self-conscious with it in my hand in the street, and just it felt really weird. But that was a great phone, such a good camera, and Android was running extremely well on this phone memory. I must say that so far I've not broken any phone.
That's very good.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's very good.
Very good.
I looked it up real quick. The Pixel 6, or not the Nexus 6, ever so slightly smaller than the current Max phones. A couple millimeters
Max.
smaller.
Okay.
And those things had a massive bezel on them, so it felt huge.
Yeah.
Not that, yeah.
I mean, on the sides,
Yeah.
it was really, really thin, but yeah,
Oh.
there was a forehead and a bottom
There was a
bezel.
forehead and a chin. Oh, and they're
Yeah.
slightly different, and I know that sets people off. It's not
And
ideal.
I remember that the Nexus 6 felt weird because at the time we were starting to get Android phones with a fingerprint sensor on the back, and the Nexus 6
Yeah.
did not have one, but it had a concave circle on the back, so it felt like there was supposed to be one, but there wasn't one.
Huh.
Yeah. Anyway, I had this Nexus 6 for years, did not break it. I sold it. I sold it like very, very good price because it was such a good condition. And I got my first iPhone, which was the iPhone 6S. And I remember feeling disappointed. It was my very first iPhone. I had an iPod Touch before that, which I used a lot along with my small Motorola in my high school. I had an iPod Touch, but yeah, iPhone 6 was okay. It was so small compared to my Nexus 6 too, so that was like a big jump. Then I got the iPhone 8 Plus.
Yeah.
Just like you, Matt. I got the iPhone 8 Plus. And
What color
sad
did you
story.
get?
That was the dark gray one, space
Dark
gray,
gray
I
one,
guess.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, good phone. And sad story. This one was stolen.
Oh.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I kept it like for around 6 months. Then it got stolen. Funnier story though is that I got it back 2 years ago. And you're like, what the heck? Yes, so was I. I had a phone call from the police in Paris about 2 years ago, like 2022, 2023, I don't remember. And the police in Paris called me and was like, we found your phone. And I was like, what phone? I haven't lost a phone. What are you talking about? And they tell me, so that's an iPhone 8 Plus, like dark black almost. And I'm like, what the heck? That was so long ago.
Wow.
And the iPhone 8 Plus was stolen in Lyon, in France, so where I was living at the time. And the police in Paris got it. So it lived its own life for a while and found itself in Paris in the hands of the police. And I had a friend pick it up, and now it's in the hands of my mom. which is she's not using it anymore. She's using an iPhone 11. But for a while, she used my iPhone 8 that was stolen for years or whatever. So, yeah.
That's great. Wow.
That's wild.
They were pursuing that case for years. Never gave up.
Incredible. So when it got stolen, I got the iPhone 10. Amazing phone.
Downgrade.
Phone.
That's fantastic.
Bring back the home button.
Amazing. Felt like the future. And this is where my one broken phone story comes in.
Oh, no.
And that was on Réunion Island in 2019. It was a sunny day. We were at the beach. And I went into the sea with the iPhone in my... It's as
You just
simple
walked
as
into
that.
the sea?
I walked into the sea with the iPhone in my hand, not thinking about anything, like just...
That's just truly living.
That's island living right there. That's island
I don't know
life.
what to
That's
tell
just
you.
Like,
I was in the moment taking pictures with my phone. I was like, okay, I'm going to take a bath now in the sea.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and it was still working for a while. Then on the way home in the car, it's starting to shut down. At first, the touchscreen went.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah, anyway. Then iPhone 12 mini, 11, then 12 mini, then 14 Pro, and now 16 Pro. And I'm done.
nice.
Yes.
Nice. The one thing I forgot to mention is I did have an iPod Touch. I had the very first iPod Touch, and I used that until I got my first iPhone 4, and that was kind of like how I played with apps and stuff like that. So I was still playing with apps in the App Store, and in the early days, but I didn't have an iPhone until the iPhone 4.
Yeah. Thank you guys
that was fun.
for sharing.
So for this week, I have something for you guys. Well, I have another iPad-related topic, actually. Woo, got a lot of iPad stuff lately. There's a lot happening with the iPad. For like once, there was nothing for a while, and now all of a sudden there's a bunch of iPad stuff. But I have this case right here. This is the Logitech Flip Folio. For the video people, I'm demoing it, okay? All right, so this is an iPad keyboard case that works with the M4 iPad Pros, the iPad Air M2, M3, and the 5th generation iPad Air. So it works with quite a few modern iPads. It comes in a graphite, midnight black, lilac, and a pale gray, which is just white color case. And the pitch is you can easily go from tablet mode. So like right here, tablet mode, I can flip that around and I have my tablet and I can, Face ID unlock and okay, great, I have that. And then what you can do is, but the gimmick of this is that right here, you might notice this, there's a little bump for video viewers. There's a little bump right here and there's this little tab.
There's a raised part. Oh.
It's a keyboard. The keyboard magnetically attaches to the case. So you can pull the keyboard off, and it's a Bluetooth keyboard. It's standalone, so for audio listeners, it's not like the Magic Keyboard or something like that. It is like you pull the keyboard away, like it's a whole separate piece. Now here's where it gets weird. The keyboard case itself, so you open it up. It's hard to do with a mic in your face. So the keyboard case itself, for video viewers, you can see, it turns into a kickstand. Now, what's weird about this is it almost feels like you're going to break it every single time. So it's pretty sturdy. Like you can see it's not flopping around. Like the cover part is pretty sturdy. But when you push it back here, this bottom part magnetically attaches. And then you take this and you literally bend the other piece to it and it turns it into a kickstand.
Does it so it snaps into place?
Yeah, so you literally bend it. And it kind of like stops.
Okay.
So you literally bend this, and it makes me worried, like how sturdy that's gonna be. But I've done this a bunch, and it doesn't feel like it's giving away anymore. But yeah, it's it is that. And then so you have a kickstand, so you can just set this up, and then you can put the keyboard right in front of it, and you can go typing away on it. It's interesting idea. That's why I wanted to bring it to the show, because I think there are people out there that will really like this kind of thing of like literally, hey, like this is my iPad. I always have a keyboard attached to it. I have a case. It has a built-in kickstand. So even if you like, and you can leave the keyboard attached too, or you should be able to. Yeah, there you go. You can leave the keyboard attached too and just use the kickstand. So if you want to just watch a video, you can watch a video or something like that. So you don't always have to have that. And like you can flip the case around and just use it in tablet mode if you want, but it kind of makes it a little bulky. If you see there, kind of makes it a little on the thick side.
Yeah.
But so the keyboard magnetically attaches to the case. The keyboard is very low profile. Like you can see right there, like that thing is about as low profile keyboard as you can get. In fact, they did it so that there's not even a lithium ion battery in here. It uses those watch batteries. So that way they could keep it this thin and this light. Like the keyboard itself weighs nothing. Like it's super light. So that's not really adding any extra weight to your setup. Now, right here, I have the model for the 11-inch version because I had my briefing and product, all that stuff before iPadOS 26. So this one, the 11-inch one, the modifier keys are smaller, kind of like the Magic Keyboard. So that is something that you have to get used to if you're using the 11-inch model. It's not full-size modifier keys. Like, look how small that Option key is right there. I don't know if you can see
It's
it.
a sliver of a key.
Yeah, that's about as thin as I've ever seen.
That is a small Option key. It does have a function row, and it does have the classic Logitech thing to where you can pair multiple devices with it.
Nice.
Which I will get to in a second on why that's actually really handy. Brightness controls, spotlight, multitasking, emojis, a screenshot, playback controls, volume up. And there's a home button as well, which I don't know why they keep adding the home button. I would rather have an escape key because the home button does the same thing as Command H. So I would rather have an escape key. Just Logitech, escape key is more useful. So I mentioned the battery, or the battery is just a watch battery in this. It's supposed to last up to 2 years if you use it for about 2 hours a day is what it's supposed to last for. Obviously, I have not tested that. It's a brand new product. It's hard to test batteries of stuff like that. The kickstand, like I said, it's kind of weird. You feel like you're going to break it, but you're not going to. Now, what's really cool about this is, so this works with the iPad in landscape mode like this, but you can also, I wonder if you can see it here. You see this green lip down here?
Yeah.
This sticks out a little bit. So what this allows you to do is it allows you to put the iPad in portrait mode on here. So if you're typing like a document or something like that, you can put it in there. But you can also take your iPhone and put it in portrait mode too. So let me see if I can get it. So you can kind of see here. So you can have both of those right there. And like I said, the keyboard can switch devices, so pair to multiple devices. So you can pair it to your iPhone as well. So you can jump over to there. So like if you want to respond to some messages or something while you're working on your iPad, you can just jump back and forth between the two.
It looks like an iPad and its son.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, remember when I used to have the rolling square clamps on my Magic Keyboard? So I had literally my 13-inch iPad Pro and then the iPad Mini off to the side. That was fun. I should do that again. I just never did it on the new one.
Yeah, this is like years ago and before iPad had multitasking, and people were like, you have two windows on this? You want two windows at the same time? Buy two iPads.
There was a time where I think it was when the M1 iPad Pro came out, and I hadn't sold my 2020 iPad Pro yet because I was like, I still needed it for something. I don't remember what it was, but I had two 13-inch iPad Pros. So I got one of those like big desk, like hovering desk clamps. So I would work at the M1 iPad Pro in the keyboard case, and then I'd have the 2021 right above it. So I'd have two iPads. Anyway, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Crazy.
Now, the downside of this, there is no trackpad on this at all. And especially with iPadOS 26, the mouse, when you're working with a keyboard, the mouse and trackpad is becoming pretty important. Obviously, there's keyboard shortcuts. There is the globe key on the keyboard. So being able to like window tiling and all that stuff, you will be able to do it with this keyboard. in iPadOS 26, but there is no trackpad. So that means you do need a third-party mouse, or you could use like a Magic Trackpad or a Magic Mouse if you want, or you can get one of those like Logitech Anywhere mouses or whatever that's like small, compact, and easy to travel with. Mouse support still isn't great in iPadOS. It still has that weird scrolling issue that I don't know why they won't fix it when using third-party mices, but mices,
I know
whatever.
why.
It's early. I'm trying to be positive. Yeah, they like to make money. I know, but honestly, I literally don't think anyone in Apple uses non-Apple peripherals. I really just don't think. The Globe Key is the perfect example of that.
That's
like,
crazy.
Yeah.
That like the Globe Key is not the only third-party keyboards the Globe Key is on is Logitech ones. That's it. Like, Matt, you and I build mechanical keyboards. We cannot get the Globe Key on our mechanical keyboards.
Even if we wanted, yeah.
Apple does not support it. It's not just the function key. It's annoying.
Magic.
I hate that. And it's actually causing me problems right now with iPadOS 26. I swear, if Apple makes me use the Magic Keyboard, Anyways, so the price of this. So the small one here is $160. The big one is $180. So that's an interesting price point because the Magic Keyboard is $250 for the. Oh no, I'm sorry, it's $300 for the small one and $350 for the big one. So this is significantly cheaper. And if you're just looking for a keyboard and you're looking for something to kind of like travel with, that's pretty slim and compact. This is not a bad option, but this will not be replacing the Magic Keyboard for me. I mean, I already have the Magic Keyboard, and the Magic Keyboard has a trackpad. It's the pro version, like it's the high-end version, obviously. But this is still, I think, an interesting option for those that want a keyboard case for the iPad, but also want to be able to just use the iPad as like a normal tablet. Just, flip open the case, hold it, tap on the screen, things like that. So I think this is an interesting option. I'm glad Logitech did something with this. I don't think it's for me. I would rather just pop the iPad out of the Magic Keyboard case, but I can also see price-wise and functionality-wise that there are people that this would be really handy for.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be me for a second when I first saw the picture of it.
The
as we all
kickstand.
know, I'm a big fan of kickstands.
You are.
And I thought that's what this was going to be, but it looks like there's only one angle it can be at. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
I forgot to mention that. Yeah, it's really just one angle it works at, which is unfortunate. Technically, like, I guess you could kind of open it up a little bit. Yeah, you could open it up more and go back more, but, like, there's really just, like, one good angle. But, like, yeah, you can open it up and lean back more.
Okay.
So, like, I'm doing it off camera, but, like, you can technically, like, do that, and it'll sit like that.
Yeah. Okay.
But, like, that's its angle, really.
Yeah. It's a long kickstand, though.
It is a long kickstand. Like, I actually don't... Like, the briefing I was in, somebody was like, well, how does this work on, like, airplane tray tables? And Logitech's answer was, use the keyboard in your lap and put the iPad on the tray table.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's not a great solution.
Yeah. That's the trouble with most kickstands. I guess all kickstands, I guess. I think in theory they could be fixed, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm this is why I'm a bigger fan of the Magic Keyboard, because I can use a 13-inch iPad Pro on a, standard economy tray table. Not even business class tray table, just normal economy tray table. I've been able to use that just fine.
Nice, living the iPad life.
Yeah. It's been interesting to play with. I've been having to jump back and forth between the 11-inch and the 13-inch. I will say, 13-inch with iPadOS 26 is nice. Not making any decisions right now, but it's nice.
I want to say, speaking of Logitech and keyboards, I have updates, but I will reserve that for next week.
Ooh, every week you're just running with a teaser.
Yeah.
I'm loving it. Like, tune in next week to find out the conclusion.
You know why? That's
Niléane's.
because I've got so many things like in my head these days, and there's only 2 things that I can mention in one episode at most, and I'm 2 weeks late now on my things that I want to talk on the show. So yeah.
I have an idea for you, Niléane.
Yeah.
What about an app that you can write things down in, and then when you're done with them, you can check a box and it marks it as completed? Just an idea. I'm just floating it out there.
Nah.
Okay.
Nah.
All right. Well, okay.
I've got a notepad.
Nice. All right. Well, that's kind of all I got this week for this. I just wanted to bring it to the show. I thought it was interesting. I think I'll do a video on it at some point. The embargo for this was the Wednesday, the week of WWDC, Wednesday at midnight. And John and I both got one of these, and we're like, yeah, we're not doing anything with that then. Like, we're going to be way too busy. Like, we got this the week before WWDC, and both of us were like trying to like finish things up. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to have time to do anything with this. And it's going to get buried in the week of WWDC news. So I held it to talk about it until now. And I think John just wrote a story as well. So
Yeah, you did.
yeah. All right. Well, that just about does it for that part. Should we get into the challenge?
Let's do it.
Sure.
All right. Matt, was it your challenge this week?
It was my challenge with a throwback to, I think, my original challenge, a variant of it, which was we just got all these new Apple OSs and we haven't done it in a while. So I wanted you to replace one of your beloved apps with an Apple app. So beloved, I think, was important. Don't just switch an app that you don't care about. High stakes.
So I couldn't just use the Tips app this week?
We will. I haven't. I don't know what you did, but I would not advise it.
Dang. Okay. All right. Well, so, Matt, what did you do?
So I have the beta on all my devices, and I wanted to try a bunch of apps, and I will focus on Spotlight, replacing Raycast.
Oh, you did that.
Did the thing.
I
You're the
did
first
thing.
of us.
I
All
did
right.
the thing. It will not be I'm done now. But so just as a quick aside, the word Sherlock gets thrown around quite a bit. And I really think people should go back and look at the app Watson and then look at what Apple released in Sherlock version 3, I think it was. Because it's not like, oh, it's the same feature, but done into the system and now or whatever. Like, it was a photocopy, basically, of all the functionality plus more. So
yeah, that was Apple being spiteful. Like, that was like, you think Apple's spiteful now?
So
no.
what is Watson?
It was, oh boy, I don't even know how to describe it. It was basically a place you would go to look up stuff. This is like in the pre-Google era. Like, we didn't really have search engines.
Pre-Wikipedia era.
Yeah.
Like,
if you had a question about the world, you might go
I
here.
can't find anything about this. Are you sure this exists?
It was Sherlocked so hard, it's gone from the internet.
I would describe it as like an encyclopedia, but an application.
Yeah, kind of. This is not a great explanation of it. But
Wait, is that where the term Sherlock comes from?
Yeah. Like Sherlock Holmes and Watson. Yeah.
So basically, Apple had an app called Sherlock. This third party made an app called Watson that was like way better and everyone would use. And then Apple just copied literally every feature and changed the UI to match and everything.
Okay.
So, and built it into macOS. That is very different from just Apple added a couple features that are similar. So why will I not be sticking with Spotlight? A few reasons. So Spotlight is on macOS Tahoe, for clarity, which I'm coming to you live from successfully once again, giving Chris absolute anxiety. Issue number 1 is it's slower than Raycast. And I think the big reason for that is that Raycast just searches your list of apps and your extension actions when you start typing. Spotlight is doing web searches, it's doing file searches, it's doing all sorts of things. And so it does a pretty decent job of getting an app like available before the full like UI loads, but it's not as quick as Raycast. There's no world in which it's as quick as Raycast. So it's a little slower.
before we go on,
Yeah.
slower. I mean, it's beta 1. Like, it may speed up.
Sure, it may, but this is
It may.
This is
like,
consistent with my experience on Spotlight for the last 20 years, though.
Yeah,
as
I was
well.
about to say, like, I was worried that no one using Raycast is going to be able to replace it with Spotlight if it's not just as fast.
Yeah, so you're right. It may get faster, but it is slower than Raycast in the way that Spotlight on the stable build is slower than Raycast, I would say, if that makes sense.
Okay. What?
So if you're on Sonoma or whatever the current one is, Sonoma?
Yeah.
No, Tahoe.
Sequoia.
No.
Sequoia?
Sequoia.
Mojave.
Sure.
Mojave.
Big Sur.
Tiger. Whatever you're on now, it's very similar to that. Maybe it is a little slower, but anyway, it's slower, so that's one thing. The second thing is it's less accurate. So I'm going to see if it's still doing it. If I type music into it, it shows music first, and then for whatever reason, after it loads the full UI, Fission by Rogue Amoeba is now the option. I don't know why this is the case. Maybe I accidentally trained it to do this, but I keep selecting music and it keeps getting stuck on that. It could be a beta thing. So I'll set that aside.
Make music.
It wants me to make music. But that's annoying. It's a problem that just like has literally never existed for me in these other apps, and it exists here. Then there is the clipboard manager. And this, I guess, is technically, for me, would replace Pastebot, but I know a lot of people use Raycasts and love it. The clipboard manager is not acceptable for someone who's used to this. So there's two fatal flaws. Number one, your clipboard history is deleted after 8 hours.
What?
That's
Apple,
insane.
come on. No, that's insane.
That's just insane.
So if it's more than 8 hours ago, if you copied it yesterday, too bad, it's gone. There's also a limit. I don't know what the limit is. I couldn't find it quickly by Googling it. But it's something like 50 items or something. So if you're copying a lot, you're not going to have all of that. I don't think there's a search option either. Oh, there is a search. There's a search. Sorry.
Oh.
There is. Yeah, you can search in there. It's 2 keyboard shortcuts away. So if you're used to doing like Command-Shift-V to bring up the clipboard history, like through whatever app you're using or whatever your keyboard shortcut is, you have to bring up Spotlight and then hit Command-4 to get to it. So it's 2 keystrokes to get to your clipboard manager instead of 1. Maybe they'll add some way to do this in 1, but it's not there right now. So it's slower. It's less convenient. It's fine. It supports like stuff like images and plain text and files and stuff. So that's all there, and it shows you the app that it was copied from. So like that's all good. There's no way to format. So if you copied formatted text and want to paste it as plain text, it doesn't do that. So it's there and it is functional. But I think that this is not a Sherlocking. It has not done all the things that Raycast or Pastebot or any of these clipboard managers do. But it's there for people who just want a basic one.
That's disappointing. Did you try doing the thing where you set up like abbreviations and stuff for like shortcuts and things like that so you can quickly toggle those?
Well,
Quick keys.
Quick keys.
Not really a shortcut guy, so I have not done that.
Okay. Fair.
It's pretty easy. So basically, if you like do a search for like, if I did do a search for music, I could arrow down to like have music selected, and then there is a way. Nope, I can't figure out how to do it. There's supposed to be a way to set the keyboard shortcut to that app, but I can't figure out how to do it. So I don't know. Oh, but you can, yeah. So if I go to like shortcuts, I can create quick keys to like run a shortcut. So yeah, send mail. What does that look like? I don't know. Yeah, it seems fine. Like the thing they demoed where you can like type a message and recipients and subject line, like and type it all out in line. That seems to be there, but I don't know. That's not how I write email. Yeah.
I love the idea of that, of just like being able to send something quickly without like jumping into my inbox and like being distracted by like all the stuff that's in there. Like we've established, I get a lot of email.
Yeah.
I don't want to look at my mail inbox most of the day. So yeah.
Yep. So unfortunately, I do not think Spotlight will be replacing Raycast for me, or not. I'm perfectly happy with Raycast. I wasn't dying for Apple to do it better, so I think it's cool. Some of the stuff is there, but probably not for me. I will also mention I tried Apple Mail and Apple Calendar, and they are exactly as not useful for me as they have always been. Apple Mail is still so slow to sync, and Calendar is still unreliable and doesn't sync my calendars quick enough for me, and doesn't support colors. I can't right-click on an event and change the color of it. It's just locked to whatever the calendar's color is. It's very frustrating.
I just want a good email client that supports IMAP. That's it. That's all I'm asking for. That's it. That's all I want.
Can't be done.
I'm a simple man that wants simple things. Dr. Pepper, Mustang, and email client that supports IMAP. That's a decent email client.
Sure.
You know, the funny thing about this whole Spotlight thing is if this was on the iPad, we would be like, whoa, yes, that's
that
all.
would be,
Like if they would have brought this to the iPad first and not the Mac, like it would be like, whoa, that does all, like this is amazing. So, I mean, I still want it on the iPad. Don't get me wrong.
You should.
Apple,
you
you're listening? I want this on the iPad. Like, I know you're never going to give Raycast the APIs to replace Spotlight on the iPad. That's a whole separate thing. At least give me this.
But I could see if it landed on the iPad first, I could see the discourse like Apple is abandoning the Mac. Spotlight is better on the iPad now.
It's impossible.
What is
to
happening?
make everyone happy.
Yeah.
Chris, by the way, if you want a clipboard manager on your iPad, just go live in the EU, install AltStore, and there's a new version of Clip by AltStore, the clipboard manager, that actually works. A new version came out this week, 1.2, I believe. Now it's free, and it supports better. It has better support for iPadOS. It installs as a keyboard, you know. So you can just tap the globe icon to switch between virtual keyboards, and you have so that from any apps you can just switch keyboards and get to the clip one, and there's your full keyboard history there.
I want that so badly.
Yeah.
I want it. You guys mind if I go next?
I don't mind.
Go for it.
So I replaced my beloved podcast app, Overcast, with Apple's new podcasts. Podcasts got some pretty cool updates in iOS 16 and iOS 26 and iPadOS 26. That's gonna kill me all summer. It has a new voice enhance feature, so it's kind of like the Overcast voice boost feature. I did do a comparison where like I was listening to the same podcast in Overcast and podcast and jumping back and forth between the two apps. And I think Overcast sounds better, but the podcast one gets the job done. Like it works. There's playback speed controls now, but not a smart speed, so it doesn't do it automatically. You have to set it to like 1.1 or 1.2 or 1.3. Weirdly, there's no like 1.25 option. It's just like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. Transcriptions.
I did not see that. Oh,
yeah.
I'm discovering features.
Yeah. The transcriptions are nice to have. I think Marcos talked pretty openly about him wanting to put transcriptions in Overcast, but it's all been about like, you know, API costs and stuff like that so far. But now with the fact that there's a local LLM running that developers can hook into, a local model that they can hook into, I don't know. I can't speak for him.
There is a world.
Maybe there's a chance. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
He's 100% doing it. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. But I'm not trying to announce features for him. Like that's my whole thing.
I don't know, Marco. I don't know anything, but 100% he's working on this.
And it's releasing tomorrow, by the way.
But yeah, I'm not trying to announce features for him. I love the player of podcast. So Liquid Glass is all over. This was another reason why I wanted to use podcast. Is Liquid Glass is all over the podcast app. And it's growing on me. Like, I'm actually really enjoying it. I didn't hate it when it was announced, by the way. I didn't hate it, but it was one of those things I was like, okay, we'll see. Like, well, I'll let it. It's growing on me, and I'm really liking it so far. I can definitely see some areas like especially the like jump between the buttons on the bottom, the toolbar buttons, whatever that's called, the floating bar now. Like the jumping between them, that animation could probably be toned down like 20%, 30%, and just like I know some people love it, but I'm like it's a bit much, but that's okay, whatever. But I love the
I like
player.
to play with it.
Yeah, and honestly, I've been playing with it too. I've been just like
I
jumping
just
back
sit
and forth.
here
I'm just
and
like,
then do this. I like how it. Have you seen that how it merges with the nearby toolbars as well when it gets bigger? That's fun.
Yep, I was getting to that. Yeah, I love the player in podcasts. I love when you minimize it, like it all the toolbars kind of merge when you start to scroll and everything minimizes. It gets out of the way of your content. I hate the way the podcast app organizes your podcast. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I don't like it. I just want to be able to create a playlist of shows and be able to basically rank them in like, hey, these are the priority shows. Always put these at the top and stuff like that.
Yeah, you'll never get that. Overcast does it, but podcast is like, just don't even worry about it, man.
Yeah,
just whatever. Listen to whatever.
See, I want to be able to rank news shows higher, so that way, like, hey, this is more timely, listen to this next. Like, I want a little bit, I guess it's automation, a little bit of, like, that smart control of, like, hey, a new episode of Connected is out. That's more news-related than this video game podcast you're listening to. Like, whatever. But yeah, overall, I like podcasts. It's not going to replace Overcast for me. I thought this was a good experiment to try the new app and kind of see the things. They added some good features here. It was a great way to play with liquid glass too. But that's podcasts.
Is it my turn?
It is your turn. What
my
do you got
turn
for us?
will be disappointment all throughout. I will state this right away. So at first, of course, I wanted to replace my dear journaling app, which is called Day One, which I've been using for years, and replace it with Journal, the Apple's Journal app, which I've been using on and off since it was announced a couple of years ago. And the issue is the new thing this year is Journal app. The Journal app supports multiple journals in the same app, just like Day One and other journaling apps. And it is finally available on macOS and iPadOS. So here's the thing. I don't have an iPad, and my Mac is still on Sequoia. I am not upgrading it, and I don't have a spare Mac, so I'm not doing this. Maybe Beta 4, Beta 3, Beta 4.
Niléane, you're my favorite co-host.
Like maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Not now.
I was just saying you're my favorite.
Yes, and you stand by that, surely. And so I could not go with the journal app for this challenge. First disappointment out of the way. The second disappointment is I looked at the prompt, which was replaced one of your beloved apps with an Apple app. And my beloved app right now is MimeStream. And MimeStream, we've talked about it before. It's an email client for the Mac, a Gmail client specifically for the Mac. So good. Feels extremely native, super native, very fast. Notifications coming like just like that. And supports labels and filters, all the Gmail specificities. And it's great. And profiles, which can link to your focus modes on the Mac and iOS. It's great. And I pray every day that it arrives on iOS and the beta is incoming surely one day. So I replaced that with Apple Mail. And I don't know. I don't even know what to say about Apple Mail. I really don't know. It sucks. I have nothing to say about it.
I think we can all agree on that. Like, that's one of the few things all three of us could agree on.
Yeah, on the iPhone, I use the Apple Mail, the default mail app in iOS. And that's because on the iPhone, I don't do a lot of email. I read email mostly, but I don't interact with email much. I just read them. And then when I have to reply to something, I just go on my Mac. But on the Mac, just the Mail app, it's so clunky. There's this bug. I don't know if that's new to Sequoia, but now when I click an email thread in the Mail app, sometimes it just doesn't appear in the rightmost pane. Like you just have to play your luck with it. I don't know. And it's very slow to load new emails. When I open the Mail app, it takes a minute or two before everything comes in. And yeah, I don't have. Unfortunately, this is it. I don't have much to say. I pray to never see this app for months now, at least years would be better. And I just really want MimeStream on iOS. And yeah, that's it. MimeStream. It just proves to me MimeStream is so good, so good.
Yep. That's what I learned. The more I use other apps, I really appreciate MimeStream more and more.
Add IMAP support. So I'm going to go ahead and declare myself the winner of this challenge because Niléane, we all don't like mail. And Matt, you said pick a beloved app. Spotlight is not a .app.
Replace a beloved app.
Replace a beloved app. Is Spotlight an app? If you go into the applications folder, is Spotlight.app there?
Raycast is, though. I'm replacing Raycast with Apple Spotlight.
Yeah, but you said with an Apple app. Spotlight is on an app.
Oh, yep.
I will go into the activity
I declare
monitor.
myself the winner. I win.
I will find the process called Spotlight, proving
I'm 100% sure if there is a process, it's not even called Spotlight. So.
It's called Spotlight.
Oh.
It's got an app icon and everything.
It's not in the applications folder, though.
Look at that beautiful app.
Okay, well, he's got it.
Let's get to the next week's challenge, and I believe it's my turn, and I am copying, and I am going to paste in the document.
What is it?
I don't know. It's not pasting now.
His cursor's there, but he's not pasting.
There we go. Okay.
Oh,
didn't
you messed up.
What the heck is happening?
Messed
It ruined
up
the
the
formatting.
document.
Okay. All right. So I want every one of us to figure out a new way to quickly capture a note.
It's so easy.
It is beta season. We'll see.
Easy to play, hard to win.
Yeah. We're playing to win. Not we're not trying to get D's here. We're trying to get A's.
Okay.
So it's beta season. We're all going to be covering stuff. We're all going to be writing stuff. We're all going to be making videos. Well, we're going to be making the podcast. I am rethinking the way I am able to quickly capture a note and the way it is filed, because right now I just have it dumped into a quick notes folder, and that is just an unorganized mess right now. I think I have 50 notes in that folder right now. So I'm going to try and come up with a system that puts, when I capture something, it puts it into the right note, like iPadOS 26 notes, iOS 26 notes, VisionOS 26, whatever. So, yeah, that's kind of my angle, but just, come up with a way to quickly capture a note for your system and, bonus points if you can do a little extra something with it. That's how you're going to play to win.
Okay. Challenge accepted.
Okay.
I'll just get a second notepad. That's a new way to capture a note.
Okay. I see. What's funny is I kept coming up with iPad challenges, and I was like, Neil doesn't have an iPad. Like, dang it! This is killing me. All right.
And I'm glad. Okay, I'm glad.
Making it hard for me. Okay. All right. Well, let's wrap up the show here. Thank you all so much for listening, but I have an end of the show question for my co-hosts. And as always, we have a feedback form. Please feel free to jump in, chime in. Tell us your phone history and like what phones and stuff you've had.
Yes.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you all. Let us know. Feedback form in the show notes. Almost said description again. But my question for the two of you, what was the last Lego set you guys put together?
Oh, I don't remember.
I did the Shire.
Ooh.
Which I can't.
Okay.
I can't pick up the whole thing, but I do have Gandalf and Frodo here. with the fireworks in the back and everything.
So cute.
I have been hovering over the buy button for a while.
It's
But
very good.
It just, is it? Okay, because it just didn't quite look as good as like Rivendell and Bowerdor, which I do have those.
Rivendell will
is
never be
huge.
beat. I mean, I've got mine up here and here. Like Rivendell is S tier Lego set.
I love Bowerdor. Bowerdor is probably one of my favorite sets I've ever put together.
I didn't
Do you mean
that one.
Baradur?
But I can't say that. I can't. My mouth literally cannot make those noises. Niléane, what about you? What was your last set you put together?
I don't know. I don't remember. I think it's one of the bouquets.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Actually,
Probably.
I literally have one of those sitting right here on this desk right there. Oh.
Is this the one? That's the orchid. Yeah, I've got the orchid right there on my shelf behind me. But on my desk, I've got the bird of paradise.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's got orange touches, so fits well with my desk. I think, it's a very colorful bouquet, the latest one.
Nice. My last one, you could probably see it if I make me full screen here, just out of there, is the Jango Fett Starship Slave One, whatever they're calling it now. I don't know. I know there's like some. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. But it used to be called Slave One. Now they call it Jango Fett Starship. I don't know what the actual proper term is, but that's the last one I got. That was the part of the UCS series. That was a really fun one to put together. If you like Star Wars starships, that was a good one. All right. Well, thank you all so much for listening. Big thank you to Mac Stories for having us. We are a Mac Stories podcast after all. Be sure to go check out all the writings and other videos and podcasts. And like I said, we have a video up on the YouTube channel of John and Federico drinking Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar with cream soda. Thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day.